It's Thursday, May 14th, 2026, and I'm back with another episode of The Swamp where I cover the daily happenings on the federal machine. So if you enjoyed the video, please give a quick like and subscribe, drop all the comments you want, and every article in this video will be linked below in the description, and the highlight segments from tonight's episode will drop tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. Gonna start right here with the White House. America's strength back on the world stage. We're just gonna go straight into playing video clips. In China with President Trump, President Xi. They had their summit meeting today. Oh yeah, rolling up into Caddy. What do they call it? The Beast? Is that what they call it? I should know that. Strong and independent. All about President Trump. President Donald J. Trump, the White House. That's his first visit to China since 2017. Of course, President Joe Biden, he did not go to China at all. And the last president before President Trump's current visit to China, of course, was President Trump. What was that? About 9 years ago at this point. And a powerful arrival ceremony in Beijing. It's just a simple image. And not sure what dude's doing over here. It looks like he's running. I don't know. Anyway, President Donald J. Trump meets with President Xi Jinping in China. Yet another one from the White House. Let me just double check. I'm just going to check and see if they've linked anything. Commonly, they'll link an article or something. Okay, no, they didn't. You know, maybe like a schedule of events or something like that. From C-SPAN, President Trump, Chinese President Xi Jinping visit the Temple of Heaven in Beijing. So we'll have a quick look at this before we get into all the diplomatic stuff. Ladies first.
How are your talks, sir?
I'm just kidding.
Great. Great place.
Fantastic.
China's beautiful.
Oh, I'm sure there's no doubt about that.
Did you talk about Taiwan, Mr. President? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, did you talk about Taiwan?
No.
Thank you, press.
Okay.
It sounds like somebody's getting thrown in the gulag. How dare you mention Taiwan in front of President Xi and President Trump? Are we trying to start a fist fight or something? Okay, all right. Well, we don't have to watch it all over again. Let's move on to the next thing. CBS News. President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are meeting at Beijing as the two countries aim to stabilize their trading relationship. In his opening remarks, and of course we've got quotes, so it'd probably be better just to play the video. All right, and here we go. President Trump, Chinese President Xi Jinping hold a bilateral meeting.
First of all, that was
All right, I'll crank it
an
up.
honor
There we go.
like few have ever seen before. And I think I was particularly impressed by those children. They were happy. They were beautiful. The military is obvious. It couldn't be better, but those children were amazing, and they represent so much. And I know they represent so much to you. You and I have known each other now for a long time. In fact, the longest relationship of our two countries that any president and president has had. And that's, to me, an honor. We've had a fantastic relationship. We've gotten along. When there were difficulties, we worked it out. I would call you, and you would call me. And whenever we had a problem, people don't know, whenever we had a problem, we worked that out very quickly. We're going to have a fantastic future together. Such respect for China, the job you've done. You're a great leader. I say it to everybody. You're a great leader. Sometimes people don't like me saying it, but I say it anyway because it's true. I only say the truth. And I just want to say on behalf of all of the great delegation that we have the greatest businessmen, the biggest, and I guess the best in the world. We have amazing people, and they're all with me. Every single one of them, we asked the top 30 in the world, every single one of them said, yes,
Wow.
And I didn't want the second or the third in the company. I wanted only the top. And they're here today to pay respects to you and to China. And they look forward to trade and doing business, and it's going to be totally reciprocal on our behalf. So I really look very much forward to our discussion. It's a big discussion. There are those that say this is maybe the biggest summit ever. They can never remember anything like it. I can say in the United States, people aren't talking about anything else. But it's an honor to be with you. It's an honor to be your friend. And the relationship between China and the USA is going to be better than ever before. Thank you very much.
Okay, that was really quiet. So going to adjust the volume accordingly. All right, so I had to kill the background music because it was like way low. I had to really max out my volume to get that to play. So yeah, I imagine probably rare earth minerals are probably going to be one of the top topics of discussion because China is planning on essentially bottlenecking rare earth minerals in November. So I don't know if that's probably going to be on the table. I would imagine tariffs also. Not sure about Taiwan. I don't know. That really hasn't really been much of a subject of discussion, at least not that I've seen recently. But I didn't realize that he brought 30 top businessmen. That's interesting, to pay their respects to China. I can only imagine the mainstream media saying what they're going to say and how they're going to frame that. President Trump is literally bowing to China, and he's putting China first and America last. Even though, who was it, Barack Obama? Was he the one that literally bowed to the Chinese president when he visited? And I don't think the Chinese president bowed back to him. It's like, okay. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. It was a long time ago. All right, so let's move on. ABC News. President Trump says it's a very special relationship as he invites Chinese President Xi Jinping to the White House during a state banquet in Beijing. Of course, they have a news article. I'll probably just link it. I don't know if we really need to go through it, but maybe. We'll see.
Thank you again, President Xi, for this beautiful welcome. And tonight it is my honor to extend an invitation to you and Madam Peng to visit us at the White House this September 24th. And we look forward to it. And I'd now like to raise a glass
24th?
and propose a toast to the rich and enduring ties between the American and Chinese people. It's a very special relationship. And I want to thank you again. This has been an amazing period of time. Thank you, President Xi.
Of course, raise a toast. President Trump doesn't drink, so I would imagine it'd probably be a glass of water, maybe a Diet Coke, I guess. All right, so let me just take a quick look at this. See, Xi warns Trump that the U.S. and China will clash if Taiwan is handled improperly. So, ABC News, they're going to try to bring about like the most negative portion of this visit that they can possibly find. President Xi Jinping issued a warning to President Donald Trump during their high-stakes summit in Beijing, saying that if the issue of Taiwan is handled improperly, the two nations could come into conflict, according to China's official state broadcaster, Xinhua. And this isn't anything new. We've known about this for decades now. The trip came at a crucial time for Trump as the war with Iran loomed and was leading to economic consequences for Americans at home. China is Iran's principal oil consumer. And yeah, I would imagine that to be true, even though China imports, I believe it was 14%, roughly 15% of the oil that China consumes does come from Iran. I can imagine that's probably going to be a big topic of discussion too, because even though it's only 15% of their total importing of oil, it's still a lot. And obviously, I would say Iran's getting the way worse end of the deal than China is, at least currently. So particularly thorny for China is the issue of Taiwan, and the U.S. position on the matter has long been delicate. However, Xi did say that if the issue is handled properly, bilateral relations can remain generally stable. So properly, I guess that would be what the peaceful transition of Taiwan being brought into the fold of communist China. That's probably the only path that China sees forward with regard to Taiwan, I would imagine. After a dramatic welcoming ceremony, Trump sat down with Xi on the first day of a multi-day summit, during which Trump said he'd seek to deepen diplomatic and economic ties between the world's two largest economic powers. And Trump and Xi had a good meeting, according to a White House official, but the official readout has no mention of Taiwan, which Xi earlier warned of a conflict if the issue was handled improperly. Okay, so the topic of Taiwan didn't even come up at all, apparently. It's just something that ABC News, I guess, just wanted to just make a top issue, even though, at least according to their own article, the official readout had no mention of Taiwan. So whatever, I'm not going to keep going into this. So like I said, I'll have it linked below if you want to have a look at that. I imagine that's probably going to be the same article. Maybe not. Maybe this is a different article, but regardless, I'll just link it and we'll just move on. This bond of commerce and respect that stretches back 250 years is the foundation for a future that benefits both our nations, President Trump said right here.
This bond of commerce and respect that stretches back 250 years is the foundation for a future that benefits both of our nations. The American and Chinese people share much in common. We value hard work. We value courage and achievement. We love our families and we love our countries. Together, we have the chance to draw on these values to create a future of greater prosperity, cooperation, and happiness, and peace for our children. We love our children, this region, and the world. It's a special world with the two of us united and together.
Yeah, being very diplomatic, being very cordial, friendly, nice. We should be partners, not rivals, says Chinese President Xi Jinping to U.S. President Donald Trump at a summit in Beijing. This is from Bloomberg. In his opening remarks, Trump touted his fantastic relationship with Xi and said U.S. business leaders were in the city to pay respects to Xi and China. Again, diplomacy.
做伙伴而不是对手，相互成就，共同繁荣，走出一条新时代大国正确相处之道。世界走到新的十字路口，中美两国能不能跨越所谓的修昔底德陷阱？
We've had a fantastic relationship. We've gotten along. When there were difficulties, we worked it out. And I just want to say, on behalf of all of the great delegation that we have the greatest businessmen, the biggest, and they're all with me. Every single one of them, and they're here today to pay respects to you and to China. And they look forward to trade and doing business, and it's going to be totally reciprocal on our behalf.
All right. Well, we've been relatively peacefully coexisting for as long as we have. I think in large part, probably the biggest reason for that is that we have a massive ocean separating our two countries. But we've got United States, free country, China, communist country. Not sure how long that we can maintain a peaceful stability between the two countries. I mean, we're just too fundamentally different, even especially on the government level. I don't know, man. I guess, maybe the world is not too small for both countries. I think that we could probably coexist peacefully in some way or another. Although, I'm sure China can point at the U.S. for whatever our faults are, and we've got plenty to point at China for their faults. $500 billion worth of intellectual property stolen from us on an annual basis. I mean, I think that's a start. But anyway, so this is from Eric Daugherty. Wow, Chinese President Xi Jinping has just stunned the world, saying President Trump is making America great again at the banquet with 47 in attendance. Trump has officially converted Xi to MAGA. Yeah, whatever, okay. With the 250th anniversary of American independence. Okay, so these are just a couple long quotes. We'll just see it right here.
Also, the 250th anniversary of American independence. The over 300 million American people are reinvigorating the spirit of patriotism, innovation, and enterprise, and ushering in a new journey for the development of the United States. The people of China and the United States are both great peoples. Achieving the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation and making America great again can go hand in hand.
Whoa.
We can help each other succeed and advance the well-being of the whole world.
55年前，尼克松总统派基辛格博士访华。
Oh, well, alrighty then. Yeah, they did mention making America great again. Jackson Hinkle, Chinese President Xi Jinping calls to strengthen relations with the United States during talks with President Trump.
To set the course for and steer the giant ship of China-U.S. relations, so as to make 2026 a historic landmark year that opens up a new chapter in China-U.S. relations.
All right. Yeah, I mean, the volume's all over the place. And from Red Wave Press, chaos. A woman frantically tries to stop someone from entering the high-stakes meeting where President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are holding talks in Beijing, repeatedly yelling White House only, reportedly trying to enforce access for the official White House travel pool. Wow.
White House only? White House only? White House only? Sir, White House only.
Good grief. Freaking Washington Post. I don't know who it is. Should have had a big tough guy handling that job. Man, they are frantic. Freaking vultures. Trying to get the best angle, the best view. I get the best scoop. Which, I can't exactly blame them, given the state of the mainstream media now. Like with Washington Post just weeks ago, laying off, what was it, like a third of their entire workforce. And I'm sure they're not alone. I'm sure there's plenty of other ones that have laid off a ton of employees. So I would say in some ways they're fighting for their professional lives, I would imagine. So both countries agreed that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. So that's a good thing. The two sides agreed that the Strait of Hormuz must remain open to support the free flow of energy. President Xi also made clear China's opposition to the militarization of the strait and any effort to charge a toll for its use. And he expressed interest in purchasing more American oil to reduce China's dependence on the strait in the future. Okay, well, I mean, if we've got the oil to hand out, we're still a net exporter of oil. So, all right. Both countries agreed that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon from the White House. And one more from the White House. From the bilateral meeting in Beijing, President Trump had a good meeting with President Xi of China. And the two sides discussed ways to enhance economic cooperation between our two countries, including expanding market access for American businesses into China and increasing Chinese investment into our industries. Look, man, I would kind of push back, and I think that most Americans would kind of prefer that more manufacturers come back here, not go there, come back here. Leaders from many of the United States' largest companies joined a portion of the meeting. The president also highlighted the need to build on progress in ending the flow of fentanyl precursors into the United States, as well as increasing Chinese purchases of American agricultural products. The two sides agreed that the Strait of Hormuz must remain open to support the free flow of energy. President Xi also made clear China's opposition to the militarization of the strait in any effort to charge a toll for its use. He expressed interest in purchasing more American oil to reduce Chinese dependence on the strait in the future. Both countries agreed that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. All right, so we already read the second part of that. And from the White House, the two sides discussed ways to enhance economic cooperation between the countries, including expanding market access for American businesses into China and increasing Chinese investment. Leaders from many of the United States' largest companies joined a portion of the meeting. And no video, just pictures. Secretary Rubio is there in attendance, and probably a few other faces I'm sure would stand out. Elon Musk. I didn't know Elon Musk was there. Did y'all know Elon Musk was there? And, of course, Scott Bessent over there with the Department of the Treasury. Of course, he showed up. And I'm sure there's probably other, big wigs. There's Tim Cook from Apple. I noticed him. And, yeah, so there you go. Some of the big leaders. I'm sure they were aboard Air Force One, accompanying President Trump to China. And from Benny Johnson, President Trump says Chinese President Xi Jinping has offered to help the U.S. in making a deal with Iran. She would like to see a deal, he offered. He said, if I could be of any help at all, I would like to be of help. I mean, that's good to hear, I guess.
He would like to see a deal made. And he did offer, he said, if I can be of any help at all, I would like to be of help. Because,
he did say that.
Yeah, he did say that. And look, anybody that buys that much oil has obviously got some kind of a relationship with him. But he said, I would love to be of help. If I can be of any help whatsoever, he'd like to see the Hormuz Strait open. He said, if I could be of any help whatsoever, I would like to help.
All right. Well, I mean, can't really say that's a bad thing. I don't know if President Trump's actually going to be calling on him for any help. I doubt it, although I guess that's good to hear. And from Red Wave Press, Fox News, Sean Hannity, what is your read on Chinese President Xi Jinping? And the Secretary of State Marco Rubio responds to that question.
What would you say, what is your read on President Xi? I mean, you read that their economy is struggling. You read that he's isolated.
It always seems to be struggling over there.
Putin and President Xi have a pretty high degree of paranoia. What is your read as you look at President Xi from a distance going into the meeting?
Yeah, I think my read has been what I think has been for a while, and that is China has a plan. I mean, they clearly view themselves, they believe they will be the world's most powerful country. They'll surpass the United States.
Oh, absolutely.
And they have a plan to do it. And they're executing on that plan, and I don't blame them. If I were the Chinese government, I'd have the same plan. We, on the other hand, don't view it that way, and
Right.
We don't want to see anything. We're not trying to constrain China, but their rise cannot come at our expense. Their rise cannot come at our fall. So there's an area where we're just going to have a difference of opinion. But my view of them and of the government in China is they're very confident. they have a plan and they're trying to execute on that plan, which is fine. I understand that from a nation state perspective, but when that plan is in conflict with the national interest of the United States, we need to do what's right for the United States. And that'll come up on this trip, but more importantly, that'll be a feature of this relationship for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right. I mean, I don't think he could have said that any better. And with our two countries being so fundamentally different, again, bringing up communism versus capitalism, even though that, yeah, I get it. There's capitalist, elements of the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese government. But like, you can't even own land in China. Like, nobody's allowed to even own land. All you can do is lease it. And I think the maximum lease you can have is up to 100 years before it can be handed down to whoever's, like, your children or whatnot. But even still, yeah, very fundamentally different. Anyway, Associated Press, Secretary of State Marco Rubio says U.S. policy on Taiwan hasn't changed after President Trump's meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping and warns China not to try taking the island by force. And apparently they've got live updates on AP News. So I would imagine that portion of that post is probably not going to be up here at the top because they're adding to it. At least that's what it said. Here's what we're following. U.S. President Donald Trump is in Beijing for a crucial series of meetings with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Few breakthroughs are expected on divisive issues such as the Iran war, trade, technology, and Taiwan. On Iran, Trump said Xi told him that China wants to help negotiate, which we already got. In a closed-door meeting, Xi warned Trump that the differences over Taiwan, a self-governed island that Beijing claims as its own territory, could bring the U.S. and China into clashes or conflict. Trump in December authorized an $11 billion arms package for Taiwan. Wow, I missed that one, but has not yet moved forward with delivery. Okay, well, maybe that's why it didn't really find its way into the news yet. Secretary of State Marco Rubio later warned that it would be a terrible mistake for China to take Taiwan by force. Trump also hopes to focus talks on trade and deals for China to buy more agricultural products and passenger planes, setting up a board to address their differences and avoid a repeat of the trade war ignited last year after Trump's tariff hikes. I mean, like, maybe we should be incentivizing, and maybe even arguably heavily incentivizing companies that are in Taiwan to move their operations over here to America. So then by the time that China ends up making a move and taking them by force, there's not really a whole lot that's left over in Taiwan that would really meet our interests. I don't know, just spitballing. So let's see. Trump says Xi wasn't talking about him when he called the U.S. a declining nation. So they've got a little info on that. Trump administration uses X. Lawsuit. Plaintiffs use court. Okay. U.S. Supreme Court. Okay, so this is just trailing off from China, but anyway. So let's just get back to it. From Guthrie Eagleman, just now, U.S. officials have just leaked a confidential intelligence assessment to the Washington Post mere hours before President Trump sits down with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The report claims China is maximizing its advantage over the United States by exploiting the war with Iran. This timing screams sabotage. Deep state leaders, or leakers, not leaders, deep state leakers, and the fake news are clearly trying to undermine Trump right before a critical summit. It won't work. Trump is in complete control and ready to deliver for America.
Post pushed a big story that there is a classified U.S. intelligence assessment that accuses the Chinese basically of using the Iran war to gain leverage over the U.S. with their allies. There's a big PR campaign apparently globally for the Chinese to call the war illegal, and they are even supplying some U.S. allies in the Gulf with defensive weapons. President Trump, it might come up when he sees Xi for the first time in about 4 hours from right now.
Kind of looms large here.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Peter, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, back early in the conflict against Iran, I came across a story, a post, an article, something like that, that a lot of Iran's weaponry was supplied from China, and people were pointing at like the high rate of malfunctioning missiles, including possibly the missile that may have fell on that school. We don't really know. I guess they're still investigating that. But the point being that a lot of equipment that China had shipped over to Iran for military use was either malfunctioning or it was cheaply made, kind of pushing forward the argument that China, in terms of military defense and weaponry, might just be a paper tiger. But who knows? The Patriot Oasis just in. Chuck Schumer is ranting against President Trump's high-stakes summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping, claiming that Trump will be out-negotiated by the Chinese. This is coming from the same Chuck Schumer who spent years pushing weak, appeasement-style policies that allowed China to steal American jobs and technology and influence. Damn straight. What a complete moron. Democrats have zero credibility on China, and Schumer's criticism just proves how terrified they are of Trump actually delivering results. Yeah, that's what it's all about. They know that Trump's going to get shit done. And Barack Obama, instead, he's just going to bow before China.
People, American business isn't going to fall for this bunk. And then there are many other things we all worry about that Trump would or could do to weaken American workers, families, and businesses when he gets out negotiated by Xi. And that's happened time and time again.
Oh, yeah, give us an example.
Here are some of the things that Donald Trump could do.
Oh, could?
That we all
What about
worry
things he
about.
did do
American
with
workers,
China?
American families, American people, American companies worry about. Donald
Man, just so mean, so nasty, so evil. Just never has a single nice thing to say. All these accomplishments for President Trump. You know, it's not like that we're a United States or anything. President Trump landed in Beijing on Wednesday evening, local time, to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping at a crucial moment in Trump's presidency amid the war with Iran and uncertainty about the economy. Of course, from CBS News. Here is what people told CBS News, Riley McCallanan, about the high-stakes meeting. So, not sure if it's cherry-picked footage. Maybe there's some people that said, well, I think it's great that they're having a meeting. You know, that hopefully he gets shit done. I would have a feeling that maybe that wouldn't be included in here. But anyway, I haven't seen it yet, so we'll see how it goes.
Donald Trump is in Beijing today to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping. For years, Americans have had an overwhelmingly negative view of China, but polls show that might be changing. Since 2023, the number of people with positive views towards China has doubled. Today, I'm on the streets of New York to hear what people think about the U.S.-China relationship and who they think has the upper hand.
Because of COVID?
What are your feelings about the meeting?
There's an opportunity there. Some sort of diplomatic line can be opened.
I hope that both hands meet, treat each other with sincerity.
China's taking advantage of all the dysfunction in the United States to get ahead in technology and education.
A lot of CEOs are going with him.
Damn straight. Why do you think they rolled out TikTok?
And come to a beautiful resolution that we are in need of help.
And who do you think has the upper hand going in the meeting?
Trump is a buffoon.
Honestly, I think China does.
So I'm sure that Xi Jinping will have some sort of manipulation over him.
At this time right now, I think America has its hands a little bit tied with Iran.
China has a superior military. I think they're way more powerful
He's
than
an
the
idiot.
United States right now.
There's no doubt that China is on an extreme upward trajectory economically.
We're in a really tough spot right now, getting to like different foreign entanglements, and you know who knows the AI bubble.
Just one, as far as I know.
Squandering a lot of the advantages that we have now in the U.S. I think that's for certain.
They're the sole producer and refiner of a massive amount of however many 50 whatever critical minerals.
But also China's having a really tough time with their old age population demographics.
They refine them though.
I feel like the world's getting more comfortable with the way China operates things, and are starting to get a little tired of the way.
Well, because they're undercutting the West.
Kind of getting exploited.
I think China's easy to focus on like the large, glamorous cities, and kind of forget the huge areas of China that are still very much like living in a lot of poverty.
Yeah. It's absolutely right about that.
I think in the future, China may be the next dominant country in the world.
And I don't know why the hell you would want that to happen. But yeah, a lot of these progressives, I'm sure they would love nothing more than that, because I'm sure that's what they're told in universities. That, yeah, we must have a Chinese future, with communism. It's okay. It's got elements of capitalism in it, so it'll make everybody happy. Yeah, okay. Which, like what dude mentioned, the overwhelming majority of Chinese are living in hopeless poverty. All right, so anyway, breaking number one, the Senate has unanimously passed a 99-0 resolution that would withhold lawmakers' pay if the government shuts down. Wow, finally something that they unanimously agreed to. That might be a first in who knows how long. Roll call vote, so 98 yes, 0 nay. Not sure. Maybe at the time they took the image, it didn't quite rack up to 99 yet, but we'll see. Maybe it'll change. Motion to proceed. Consideration of S Resolution 526, a resolution withholding the pay of senators if a government shutdown occurs. Very quiet, man. They should play some elevator music or something.
On this vote, the yeas are 99, the nays are 0.
And Mr. Hoven, aye.
All right, extremely quiet, but yeah, he said 99, so it was 99. It's like not a typo or whatever. Readers added context they thought people might want to know. So interestingly, they got community noted. So it's a motion to proceed, and it's a vote to bring the main resolution, S Resolution 526, up for a debate and consideration on the Senate floor. So they didn't fully pass it in the Senate. It's not like it's either heading to the House or heading to President Trump's desk, that it's They just simply made a vote to bring the resolution to a debate. And I don't know, man, if that many agreed to a yes for it to proceed in any way, then it probably will pass. I don't know why Democrats would want to fight. Well, actually, I do know why they'd want to fight it, because they don't want to go without their paycheck. But it does look like that seems like a good sign that it has overwhelming support, because that absolutely should be the case. I mean, members of Congress, if they're the ones that shut down the federal government, why are they getting a paycheck and everybody else who they shut down are not getting one? Doesn't seem all that fair. Rep. Nancy Mace, this has our full support. No member of Congress deserves a paycheck while federal workers go unpaid. Watch how fast shutdowns end when their own wallets are on the line. That's a very fair point. Of course, you got way too many members of Congress who have already gotten extremely rich while they were in Congress. So many of them, they really wouldn't give a shit one way or another, except for like the new ones, the newcomers in Congress, the ones who haven't quite gotten corrupt enough, or the ones who haven't insider traded quite enough yet to not care about not getting their paycheck for a period of time. And Eric Doherty, now the U.S. Senate advances a resolution withholding senators' pay if the federal government shuts down in a whopping 99-0 vote. This is long overdue. Do not reward them for shutting down TSA, DHS, and withholding paychecks from federal workers. And from Senator Ashley Moody, that's my senator. I just voted to suspend senator pay during a shutdown. I've been pushing for this since the Democrats held up pay for those essential to our security agencies while insisting they should still collect a paycheck. This place is in desperate need of reform, and no pay for senators during a shutdown is a no-brainer.
Hi, I'm Senator Ashley Moody. I just got off
loud.
the floor voting to support a resolution to stop senator pay if there's a government shutdown. I've been fighting for this for months. So proud to lead the effort along with Senator Kennedy. We're going to get this done.
We're going to get her done. And moving on to Senator Kennedy, the man himself. My resolution to stop senators' pay during government shutdowns cleared a key procedural vote today, moving it one step closer to final passage. Fair-minded Americans know senators should feel the pain of a shutdown with the American people.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Absolutely correct.
Mr. President, in a few minutes,
It's kind of a long one, so we might not get all the way through it, but we'll see where it goes.
Resolution 526. And I wanted to spend a few moments explaining what my resolution would do. First, it's a resolution. It's not a bill. This resolution will only affect the United States Senate. It will not affect the United States House of Representatives.
Why not Congress entirely?
Very simply, this is what my resolution would do. When we shut down government, and by that I mean, of course, when Congress, House and Senate, refuses to provide funding for an agency in government, in some cases all of government, and those agencies or all of government, as the case may be, have to shut down. That means that federal employees, for the most part, aren't being paid. My resolution would require, or stipulate rather, that senators wouldn't be paid either. It's called shared sacrifice. Now, I want to be clear so my colleagues understand exactly what this resolution would do. Because I've worked hard to get the votes to pass this, and I've had to make a few accommodations. First, a senator would not lose his or her salary.
Quid pro quo, basically.
The money would be escrowed. The senator's salary just would not be available to that senator while we're in a shutdown. But once the shutdown is over, you'll get your money. Number two, again, to repeat, this bill will not apply to the House of Representatives. It will only apply to the United States Senate. The House can take care of its own business.
I bet I know why. Probably because he initially tried to propose that with the House, and I bet that he was probably just met with just way too much, well, if I'm going to do this for you, you got to do this for me. And I'm sure that they were just piling on all these demands that they probably wanted to attach to it. I have a feeling that's probably why.
Because of the 27th Amendment, and in order for my resolution to be constitutional, The resolution will not take effect until the day after the midterm elections. The 27th Amendment provides pretty clearly.
It's almost as if he knows there's going to be another shutdown.
Compensation
probably will be in September,
Senate and the House for that matter, though this bill doesn't apply. This resolution doesn't apply to the House. Can't be changed until after an election, and the soonest election, of course, is midterms. If I were king for a day, I'm not. I don't aspire to be, but if I were, I'd make this resolution effective immediately, because I'm very concerned. I hope I'm wrong. If I am wrong, I'll apologize. I'm very concerned that my Senate colleagues on the Democratic side are going to try to shut down government yet again right before the elections.
Yep, in September.
Try to create chaos to affect the midterm elections.
That could backfire, though.
If I'm wrong in that prediction, I will come here and apologize to every senator by name. But so if I could, I would make this resolution apply immediately. Frankly, if I were also king for a day and I wanted to stop government shutdowns, I'd do more than this. I would do two things. I would say that if government shuts down, a senator loses his pay. It's not escrowed, and you get it back later.
All
you
right.
just don't get your pay.
I
would also say that you can't leave Washington. You can't go home. If you make people forfeit their pay and tell them they can't leave Washington, we won't have any more shutdowns. And everybody in this body knows that.
It's not that easily.
But I can't pass that. I would if I could, but I can't. So to repeat one more time, all my resolution would say that if we choose to shut down government, you're not going to be paid. You'll get your money later, but while we're in a shutdown, you're not going to be paid. It's about shared sacrifice, Mr. President. I mean, what we have done this year in terms of keeping government open. Last October, I looked it up before I came to the floor. Last October, we shut down government 43 days.
Yeah, 43 days.
It's the longest shutdown.
At the time it was.
And we had FBI agents and National Park Rangers and CDC scientists. Our staff here in Congress, nobody was getting paid. And then 3 months later, after we finally got out of that 43-day shutdown, we shut down the Department of Homeland Security. It was shut down for 76
Well, Democrats
days.
did.
And this is all
I don't know if I'd use the word we.
We ought to hide our heads in a bag. It's got to stop. Shutting down government should not be our default solution to our refusal to work out our issues and our differences. So that's what my Senate resolution will do.
All right. Well, that actually went pretty quick. It was already 6 minutes. It went by. It's directly swamp related, of course. If it's reasonable in what he's saying, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes with the Senate when they're up there giving a speech. Sometimes they just go off on these crazy tangents. And, he stuck straight to the point, though. And very interesting. I think that'd be a fantastic idea that they don't get their pay for whatever period, however many paychecks that they miss. Nope, it's forfeited. You don't get it. But unfortunately, wasn't able to make that happen. I'm sure that probably very few senators were on board with that, and that's probably why he wasn't able to include it. That would be my best guess. And from ABC News, in a unanimous 99-0 vote, the Senate advanced a resolution to withhold pay from senators during a government shutdown. So the main point why I brought this up is because there's an article accompanying it. And let's see. So anytime that by the way, let me see. So from ABC News, anytime that I come across anything that comes from the mainstream media, it's because a politician had reposted it, and that's how it came across my view. Because all the lists that I keep track of, which is I keep track of everybody who's in the House, everybody who's in the Senate, also everyone in President Trump's cabinet, also all of the different agencies, all the departments. I have separate lists for everything. So anytime something mainstream news comes up, or even someone with like a blue check mark, it's because there was a politician or a government agency or entity had reposted it. I wish that they would have that tagged. It'd be nice if they included that on the X platform. That would show who it was who reposted it, which they do when I get it. But once I include it in my list of bookmarks, that just doesn't get included. But anyway, so just in case you were wondering, I don't really follow mainstream news separately. Everything is strictly swamp related that I keep track of throughout the day. So anyway, senators adopt a resolution to withhold their own pay during the government shutdowns. The legislation, which won't take effect until after the November election, which we already got that from Senator Kennedy. Those payments would be released to the lawmakers only after the government reopens. And which, by the way, in September, that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's when the government's budget, for the next fiscal year, comes up for a vote, which is what led to the government shutting down back in September, because they couldn't agree on, well, I guess they could agree on the budget. It's just Democrats wanted to extend the Obamacare subsidies for another 3 years, which would have been untold billions and billions of dollars. And obviously, if that were to happen, then our premiums would have just kept going up. Democrats would argue, well, they went up regardless. Well, they only went up because the subsidies expired. And when the subsidies expired, it actually revealed how much our insurance premiums actually cost, because they had been getting subsidized due to COVID. But COVID's over, so which is why it was allowed to expire from the Republicans. The measure in the Senate was introduced by Republican John Kennedy and advanced in a 99-0 vote. All right, so anyway, I'll just have this reposted. It's a short article anyway, but 670,000 federal workers were furloughed. I believe this was from, over the last fall. 43-day government shutdown caused by a deadlock between parties over Affordable Care Act subsidies. But yeah, and ultimately Democrats got nothing out of it because they didn't get their subsidies. They didn't get anything. They also wanted something like $1.5 trillion for spending with a bunch of ridiculous projects like climate change related nonsense and a whole bunch of other crap. They didn't get that either. I'm surprised that they didn't counter with well, what about $200 billion or whatnot? I mean, they got nothing out of that, interestingly. And from Scott Pressler, he's like, well, what about the Save America Act? And that's in response to Senator Kennedy. It's in response to this whole 99-0 vote. He's making that known also. The Save America Act is many times more important than withholding senators' pay during a shutdown. If they pass the Save America Act, then perhaps we would have enough political or members of Congress in that would allow the government to not be shut down for the foreseeable future. That would certainly be nice. Rep. Mark Harris, my bill, the Cashless Bail Reporting Act, just passed the House. Across the country, soft on crime states and cities are allowing dangerous offenders back into the streets on little more than a promise to reappear in court. I would assume probably exclusively blue states are doing this. This bill gives Americans the transparency they deserve and helps hold local leaders accountable for the policies they put in place. So let's get a little bit of this.
Today I rise in support of my bill,
see where it goes, just like the last
one, I guess. 5625, the Cashless Bail Reporting Act. In August of 2025, the whole nation watched in horror as we witnessed the brutal murder of Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska on a Charlotte light rail. This murder took place right outside my district in a city I've called home for many years. This tragic incident cannot be described as anything other than a cold-blooded murder carried out by a dangerous individual who should not have been out on the streets to begin with. Irina Zarutska, alleged killer DeCarlos Brown Jr., had 14 prior arrests and had previously served a 5-year sentence for robbery with a dangerous weapon.
I would say a lot of those crimes were violent, too.
Out on a written promise to appear in court when he murdered Irina Zarutska. DeCarlos Brown Jr. should not have been released on a simple written promise to appear in court, given his extensive
whatever happened to the
history
3 strike
of crime
system?
and violence.
That used to be a thing.
There are many aspects of public safety that must be addressed to keep our streets safer. One of the most pressing issues is bail reform. As we celebrate Police Week and welcome many brave members of our law enforcement to the Hill, I can't help but think about how some states and local governments choose to make law enforcement officers' jobs harder and more dangerous through the laws and policies they enact. State legislatures, city councils, and rogue prosecutors have implemented radical bail laws and other policies that have worsened violent crime. These laws and policies have eliminated cash bail, restricted judges from imposing constraints on dangerous criminals, and even mandated the immediate release of criminals back into the community. Now more than ever, it is important that we prioritize American citizens and support our law enforcement officers. States like Illinois, California, Maryland, New Jersey, and New York have modified their bail practices to eliminate or de-emphasize the use of monetary bail systems, which has resulted in increased property and violent crimes. A March 2023 study by researchers at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice found that approximately 72% of violent felony offenders who were released without bail were later rearrested. State and local jurisdictions must take steps to address the problems that arise with irresponsible cashless bail policies. I applaud my home state of North Carolina for passing Irina's law, which dealt with cashless bail, among other things.
Well, that's good.
However, we cannot and should not sit and wait
That's in
for
the video.
more jurisdictions
I don't have teams.
to experience tragedy to do something about these reckless bail policies. To be clear, bail is not a criminal fine or a punishment. It is not a reflection of a defendant's guilt or innocence. It exists to ensure the defendant will appear at all required proceedings during their criminal case. Bail is imposed after an assessment of risk, the risk that a defendant may flee from a jurisdiction, and the risk that a defendant may harm witnesses or other members of the community if they're released before trial. My bill, the Cashless Bail Reporting Act, will empower Americans with the information they need to advocate for much-needed changes. This bill simply requires the Attorney General to publish a list of each state and local jurisdictions that allows individuals charged with certain serious offenses to be released before trial, either on personal recognizance or unsecured appearance bonds. This list will be made public and updated periodically to ensure Americans have accurate data on the extent of cashless bail across our country. Americans should be able to see which jurisdictions have enacted dangerous and irresponsible policies related to bail when making decisions about where to live, to work, or to travel. It also shows Americans where change is needed most. The American people deserve transparency and accountability when it comes to policies that affect public safety.
All right, well, I don't know if they had these newspapers where you might live or how many cities they had them, but where I live in the Tampa Bay area, and I think that my county, Pinellas County, and also over in Hillsborough County, which is Tampa, they used to come out with a daily, or maybe it was weekly. I think it was actually weekly. It's like a newspaper, tabloid style newspaper. It looked kind of similar to the New York Post, and I think it was only like $1, but it had mugshots of everybody who was arrested and everybody who got out of jail, and they updated it weekly, and you could buy them at gas stations at the counter. And they got rid of them, and I think they passed some law or something that prevented, I guess, whoever was publishing those from doing so. But maybe that's something that they should also bring back, or at the very least make it publicly available on a website or whatever. I mean, I don't know why that wouldn't be public information in some way or another. But yeah, anyway, it looks like somebody for Rep. Mark Harris, whoever's handling his account, they got that Teams notification, like Jane somebody or whatnot. Anyway, that's a first. FBI Director Kash Patel. So speaking of Police Week, they had the vigil out at the mall. I think this was, okay, so this I believe was the night before last. So this would have been Tuesday night when they held this. The scene from the mall during tonight. So yeah, so last night, I guess. All right. Yeah, I guess it is tonight. Or last night. So the candlelight vigil remembering fallen police officers. Honored to be here reading some of the names of our fallen heroes. Thanks to all who braved the rain to show up and pay tribute to law enforcement who showed up for us and paid the ultimate sacrifice. So it's just a quick clip, just showing the crowd. Oh man, it is raining. Oh, it's miserable. That's good they showed up though. That's a lot of people, man. Looked like it might have been up to in the thousands. A lot of people who showed up for the candlelight vigil. And from Fox and Friends, silent vigil. Fox and Friends hosts left stunned after learning no Democrats appeared at a ceremony honoring fallen heroes during National Police Week. And there's a quote from Griff Jenkins, who is he's one of the co-hosts for Fox and Friends. I'm assuming this is the guy.
I couldn't count a single Democrat that was there, and it's a shame that you didn't have bipartisan support for something so important like supporting our
Not
law
shocking,
enforcement
obviously.
officers.
Really?
Wow.
I mean,
yeah, we counted, and I didn't see one. I asked a few people around me that work in the Senate TV gallery, and we couldn't find one.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'd be going, wow. It's not surprising. It's despicable. It's ridiculous that they wouldn't show up and show some support for law enforcement. It just goes to show, man, Democrats are anti-law enforcement. They have been for quite a while now. And I think I have a follow-up with the same thing. Hunter Eagleman. Democrats refused to show up to the 38th annual candlelight vigil that was held last night in Washington, D.C., honoring police officers who were killed in the line of duty. Honoring officers who died in the line of duty is one of the few things that should be completely nonpartisan. Now take a look at them honoring a savage criminal like George Floyd. Yep, there you go. I remember that. Back when they were all masking up, double masking, and all that nonsense. Social distancing, of course, as they bow and they pay tribute to their martyr, George Floyd. The left throws parades and riots, has kneeling sessions, statues, and moments of silence for criminal George Floyd. Our true heroes, America's police officers, they refuse to even show up. Criminals over heroes, that's the left's priority. It's disgusting. Officer Liu, not a single Democrat showed up to honor the fallen law enforcement heroes during National Police Week. While officers and families gathered to remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice, one side was nowhere to be found. It's shameful. And of course, you're not going to hear a word of that on mainstream news, except for, of course, Fox. They're going to talk about that. And from David Wiepren, let's see who David Wiepren is. I'm not familiar. Representing Queens in the NYS Assembly. All right, okay. So he didn't have a great check mark. My office is aware of a planned protest this evening in the 24th Assembly District targeting the young Israel of Jamaica Estates. I have been in contact with the NYPD 107th Precinct, who will be deploying officers to keep the community safe. So, yep, looks like they're going to stage another protest and almost certain riot, just like they did the other day, which I covered. I believe it might have been on Monday. I think it might have been Monday when I covered that. I am deeply disturbed by this action that comes off the heels of multiple incidents of anti-Semitic vandalism and intimidation in Queens and throughout New York. Well, look, Democrats, they just have to concede that it's not right-wingers doing that. Nope, that's the left. That's the Democrat supporters. Those who are voting Democrat, blue, no matter who. Those are the ones who are painting swastikas and very anti-Jewish rhetoric and violence against Jewish people. It's very interesting, very strange, because they're the ones that call the right for doing things like that. But no, it's only on the left who's doing that. We cannot tolerate hate of any kind, and I strongly denounce any action targeting a house of worship. Jewish New Yorkers deserve to feel safe at home, at prayer, and in the community. Well, then they would be violating the FACE Act if any of them are preventing them from freely worshiping in a house of worship, as what Don Lemon was charged with. And I believe his I don't know if his trial is coming up this summer, but I think his next hearing is coming up in the next couple of months. And the judge, of course, in Don Lemon's case, the judge let him out without any bail. They just let him out and gave him full permission to travel to the south of France so he can gallivant with his boyfriend or husband or wherever the hell he is. And they get to go to vacation in the south of France for 2 weeks in June. So there you go. All right. Anyway, so Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon at Yale Medical School, a black applicant is 29 times more likely to be invited to an interview than an Asian with equally strong academics. Today, the Civil Rights Division told Yale that its use of race in admissions is illegal, and the U.S. Justice Department will step in to enforce Title VI. I think that's Title VI. I'm bad with Roman numerals, but I think that's a 6. All right, so the Justice Department investigation determines Yale's medical school discriminated based on race in admissions. And I think if they were to answer just freely and openly, they'd say, well, if we just allowed just straight merit and nothing else, then it would be just nothing but Asian people who are going to medical school. I'd be like, well, look, if they're the ones that got the highest scores and if they're the ones that are going to be the best doctors, then it is what it is. All right, so the Justice Department Civil Rights Division has completed a year-long investigation into the admissions policies and practices at the Yale School of Medicine. I mean, of course, I would say Americans first. That's who they should be interviewing. If there's no other position or no other availability, then sorry, foreigners, like people in Asia or anywhere else in the world. You know, if the school admissions fills up with Americans, then sorry. But if everyone who applies and whoever gets the highest scores and the highest academics and the ones who have the most promising future as doctors, and they are overwhelmingly Asian and they're Americans, sorry, that's just the way it is, man. Yale's documents showed that its leadership intentionally selected applicants based on their race. Yale's documents revealed that they studied how to use racial proxies to circumvent the Supreme Court's prohibition on using race to select students. Yale's admissions data demonstrate that Black and Hispanic students have a much higher chance of admission to Yale than white or Asian students with the same test scores. It's so weird, just going over like just historical like demographics and educational performance statistics. It kind of seems a little backwards, but this is the left for you. This is the university system that we're in now. Yale has continued its race-based admissions program despite the Supreme Court and the public's clear mandate for reform, said Assistant Attorney General Harmeet K. Dillon of the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division. This department will continue to shed light on these illegal practices and demand that institutions of higher education comply with federal law. The investigation showed that in general, Black and Hispanic applicants were admitted with consistently lower academic qualifications than their white and Asian counterparts. These facts support the department's finding that Yale violated the law by intentionally discriminating based on race in its admissions, in clear violation of federal law. Medical schools use substantial federal financial assistance to train the next generation of doctors. The department is continuing its focus on eradicating illegal race policies or politics from admissions at medical schools where quality and excellence are vitally important to public safety. Merit. Let them in based on merit. It should not matter. Legally, it doesn't matter what they look like. But, if you're on the left, everything is a race issue, no matter what. They have to always judge and determine everything based on the color of one's skin. That's the modern left. And another one from Harmeet Dillon. She's had a really busy week, man. I keep coming across posts that she's been dropping, and all of them are important. At least all the ones that I've seen, at least. From Libs of TikTok. Insane. A Massachusetts school issues race-based payouts to staff. At least 4 different school officials at Framingham Public Schools. And they've got the profile, Framingham Public Schools. All right, anyway, are receiving $1,500 bonuses for identifying as BIPOC, which stands for a bisexual person of color, in case you didn't know. Highly illegal, which it is highly illegal. And then, of course, Libs of TikTok tagged in Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, and she replied back saying that we're going to be investigating that. And there's no video, just shows just some information from Libs of TikTok. I'm assuming they probably got that from whether it's the school's website or what have you. So the stipends for a bi person of color, the director shall receive a $1,500 stipend in recognition of being BIPOC, which shall be payable in equal installments in accordance with the policy of the Framingham School Committee and via paperless direct deposit. I mean, that sounds like a double whammy, that they're not only giving them money because they're a person of color, but because they identify as whatever gender or something rather or whatnot. I mean, it sounds like that's maybe like 2 separate violations that they might be in violation of. The principal shall receive a $1,500 stipend in recognition of being BIPOC, which shall be added to the base annual salary and shall be payable in equal installments in according with the policy of the Framingham School Committee via the paperless direct deposit. Stipends other, the principal shall receive. Okay, so it's basically the same thing. They're just adding just extra words to it. So the stipend, Joint Labor Committee, shall be paid in addition to the base annual salary and payable in equal installments, blah, blah, blah. All right, so anyway, I think we get the point that they are given extra money just because they identify as a bisexual. All right. But they're going to be investigated. Okay, well, the source is on Facebook. Like, I'm standoffish with sharing links to Facebook, but, if you really want to have a look at it, I'll repost this, and there's a direct link to my profile below in the description, and it'll take you directly here. Or, of course, you can go to Libs of TikTok. You can scroll until you can find it, or you can just go about it the easy way. Just click the link below. And we'll roll on to the next one. From Hannah Hill, the DOJ Civil Rights Division just expanded their lawsuit challenging the DC gun ban to include the DC suppressor ban as well. I mean, just when I thought that the Civil Rights Division is just absolutely on point, they just take it another step further. They're looking to just get rid of any kind of law that has to deal with suppressors or I guess more commonly known, thanks to Hollywood, as silencers. Anyway, so this is what they shared. The idea that suppressors are in any way widely associated with criminal activity is a myth. According to the American Suppressor Association, as of April 2026, there are approximately 6 million registered suppressors in the United States. Yet, according to acting former ATF Deputy Director Ronald B. Turk, they are rarely used in criminal shootings and should not be viewed as a threat to public safety. Indeed, in 2017, the ATF reported that it had recommended prosecutions in only 44 suppressor-related cases on average each year. Applying the Bruin framework to the district's ban of suppressors as the plain text step, the Second Amendment extends prima facie to all instruments and constitute bearable arms, even those that were not in existence at the time of the founding. And then, let's see, Bruin 577 U.S. at 28. This includes all modern instruments that facilitate armed self-defense. Suppressors fall within this category. Therefore, suppressors are presumptively protected. Again, the district cannot rebut the presumption of unconstitutionality because there is no historical tradition analogous to a ban on an arm in common use. Man, I really fumbled the rest of that. But yeah, so there you go, man. That's the gist of it. They're looking to get rid of the suppressor ban. I think that's a very good idea because that is unconstitutional for them to be banning things like that. Even machine guns, fully automatic rifles. I don't think those should be banned either. And I don't believe that they were banned up until what, like 1980, 1982, somewhere around there. All right, so moving on to Brett Shumate. Some states are refusing to issue license plates to federal law enforcement. This is insane. It's dangerous. It's shameful and unconstitutional. It needs to stop now. Under Deputy Attorney General, or Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, I wish they would fix that already. This Justice Department stands with our brave law enforcement officers. And I'll repost this too, so that we don't have to go through the entirety of the letter, but if you want to go through it, I suppose I could read the first paragraph. It has come to my attention that Washington State Department of Licensing is refusing to issue undercover license plates to all Department of Homeland Security components, while continuing to issue such plates to state and local law enforcement agencies. This discriminatory policy is not only deeply dangerous as a matter of public safety, but also blatantly unlawful as a matter of constitutional law. It should be immediately withdrawn. Otherwise, the United States intends to seek judicial relief, as they should. That is crazy. And that's where things are going. That's how bad things are getting in blue states. Not even issuing license plates to federal law enforcement. Unbelievable. I mean, well, maybe it's not all that unbelievable. I mean, who was it? Eric Swallowswell said when he was going to become the governor, that federal law enforcement would lose a whole bunch of their rights. They wouldn't be allowed to work anywhere in California government. And I'm sure that he gave like a whole list of things, just absolutely just ridiculous, man. Rapid Response 47, U.S. Assistant Attorney General for Fraud, Colin McDonald. This case really demonstrates the need for the federal government to be laser focused on the fraud that is pervasive across our country. Yeah. So this is with regard to this dude was here. Let me just show this first before we get into that. The owner of healthcare software company was convicted of $1 billion Medicare fraud conspiracy. The Department of Justice crushed one of the most egregious fraud schemes in Florida history, said Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. This illegitimate operation stole more than $1 billion from American taxpayers, including hundreds of thousands of Medicare beneficiaries. This was cold, calculated, industrial-scale theft targeting the sick and elderly, coercing vulnerable people into buying unnecessary medical equipment. We will not rest until every fraudster ripping off the American people is held accountable. And then they've got the justice.gov article there too. But there's the asshole. He's the guy that, I guess, allegedly, or wait, did he say he was guilty? I thought he said he was guilty. Who stole $1 billion of taxpayer funds living in his big, giant McMansion. I mean, like his freaking boathouse is like 3 times bigger than my freaking house is. It's crazy. All right, so yeah, convicted. So he did it. I mean, there's no presumed innocent till proven guilty here. Convicted. So I hope that we get as much of that money back as humanly possible. All right, so let's play this video.
This case really demonstrates the need for the federal government to be laser focused on the fraud that is pervasive across our country. What this case involved was a series of sophisticated fraudsters who teamed together to prey on the elderly, the sick, and the vulnerable in the United States, utilizing call centers in the Philippines, using telemarketing campaigns to call Medicare beneficiaries to then ask them whether they had certain health problems that might require certain medical equipment. When these individuals would then respond to those telemarketing campaigns, they would actually call a call center in the Philippines, where these individuals in the Philippines were part of this scam, to then ask the elderly, does your knee hurt? Do you have wrist pain? And when in the natural course, these individuals, these victims would say yes, they would get funneled from there to certain telemedicine providers who were also in on the sham, and they were signing fake prescriptions and fake orders to then be able to order durable medical equipment and then bill the taxpayer for it.
Good grief, man. Well, that's one. How many others are doing that right now that we haven't caught yet? Crazy. Freaking $1 billion, man. Well, J.D. Vance's White House Fraud Task Force, I think they're going to be on it, and they're going to catch every one of these assholes that are responsible for stealing all of our money. As my kitty Livy. She's photobombing right now, all up in my face. All right, so anyway, Rapid Response 47. The vice president takes on fake news reporter minimizing the severity of the fraud in Maine. And then, of course, there's a quote, so we'll just play it out.
My question is, what else do you got? What else has your task force flagged that we should be concerned about? Because those amounts are a lot, 46 million, 1.7 million, but they don't really compare to California and Minnesota. What else should we expect from your task force? Thank you.
Let me say a few things. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've got biased reporters in all states. It's okay, trust me. I can handle it. But here's what I'd say. A few things. Number one, you talk about the scale of the fraud being less in Maine than it is in California. Well, California has a population that's much higher than Maine, so that's not necessarily a fair comparison.
Why don't you scale it down? Percentages.
Number two, we've frankly been at this less long than we have in Maine than in other states. Okay, this is something where I would say, you notice a pattern, and you're right, innocent until proven guilty. But what I've noticed is a pattern that when you see certain types of fraud and certain types of programs, that's the tip of the iceberg. And when I see that autism services fraud in the Medicaid program in the Somali community, but not just that, I see local and state politicians who don't care about policing that fraud, that's the tip of the iceberg. And we're going to find out just how deep that iceberg is. And I suspect, I can't promise, but I suspect we are going to find hundreds of millions of more dollars every single month that we look in the state of Maine, because this is not a state that takes it seriously. And this is the third point and the most important one. I do not actually like having a contentious relationship between the state government and the federal government. We want people to help us find the fraudsters. It goes a lot quicker. It's a lot easier. It requires fewer resources from the federal government, but you find more fraud when you're working with people at the local level. What I find so preposterous about Maine, it's not just that we found tens of millions of dollars of fraud in a relatively small state. It's that we've had no cooperation from the state government. So when I say that the state government, when I say this is the third, maybe the fourth worst state when it comes to fraud, what I mean very simply is that you've got a governor and you've got a set of bureaucrats that don't care about fraud. And all I'm saying is Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance, we care about fraud. We care about the people of this state, and we care about your tax dollars going to where it's actually supposed to go.
Yeah, let's go, man. Let's see some results. And they're producing results so far. I mean, we've seen quite a few results already. I guess I'm just speaking on specifically Maine. I'm sure that they're probably going to be digging up something. All right, Acting Secretary Keith Sonderling. So let's see, Acting Secretary of Labor. And he says, thanks to Vice President's White House Fraud Task Force and U.S. Labor IG Inspector General and the U.S. Department of Labor has uncovered shocking levels of fraud that went unchecked for far too long. And he's got a list of this. I think that he covers all this in this video clip, but if not, then I'll go back up and read it.
Since the task force began, we've already uncovered widespread fraud and are aggressively preventing it from ever happening again. So here's some examples. We found that nearly $29 billion went to the same Social Security numbers across multiple states. Oh, hold on. I got better ones. $139 million got sent to dead people.
Of course.
All right, ready for another one? All right, this is a good one. $1 billion was sent to children under the age of 14 seeking unemployment insurance.
What?
Under 14,
Under
that
14.
doesn't work because they can't work.
Wonderful.
So it got so bad that as much as $17 billion in fraud may have gone out in a single month. We learned that
In
our
a
systems
month.
were overwhelmed and exploited. And who got stuck with the bill? All you.
All of us.
The taxpayers. Maine is a smart group.
Unreal, man. That's a lot of money in a single freaking month. 29 billion. Social Security numbers across multiple states. 139 million paid to deceased individuals. More than $1 billion sent to children under 14. Okay, yeah, so he did cover all that. The day of fraudsters exploiting the American taxpayer are over. We're hunting down this fraud, holding bad actors accountable, and fighting to ensure Americans' hard-earned tax dollars are protected. And one more from Sonderling Watch in Maine. He lays out some examples of fraud and waste uncovered by the White House Fraud Task Force. And another quote and another video clip.
And nowhere was government failure more obvious than in our unemployment insurance system.
Okay, so we heard this.
During the pandemic, what started as emergency relief for hardworking Americans became one of the largest taxpayer dollar frauds in modern history. So $888 billion in unemployment benefits were paid during that time. But guess
Almost
what?
$1 trillion.
It's estimated as much as $135 billion of that may have been stolen through fraud. Think about that. $135 billion of your money gone. That was meant for you. That was meant for your families. It was meant for hardworking Americans. But instead, criminals, fraud rings, and overseas scammers took this money. But now, due to Vice President's leadership and his task force, we are working every day to make sure that never happens, to get that money back and hold those accountable with law enforcement.
Amen.
Since the task force began, we've already uncovered widespread fraud and are aggressively preventing it from ever happening again. So here's some examples. We found that nearly $29 billion went to the same Social Security numbers across multiple states.
Okay, we got that, right?
Oh, hold on. I got better ones.
All right, let's see if there's anything else.
Yeah. The taxpayers. Maine is a smart group.
All right, got a little bit of extra
Maine knows all
info.
too well about these pandemic insurance programs. More than $93 million in overpayments were put on the books here in Maine. And barely $7 million has been recovered. But that's changing. Thanks to the Vice President, paying benefits first and verifying later never works. We must prevent fraud before it happens. And President Trump and Vice President Vance looked at this disaster and said, not in this administration.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder, like, when did things really start getting out of hand with regard to the fraud? I mean, maybe during the COVID era, maybe that's when everybody just quit giving a shit. Or maybe it actually goes back 10, 20 plus years. It might go back a long time. I mean, look, like people, they've been defrauding the government since probably the government's founding. But I mean, like to the point where it's gotten into tens and tens, over $100 billion worth of fraud. It's crazy. And from Dr. Oz with CMS, here at CMS, integrity isn't optional, and neither are the actions we just took to stop fraudsters from stealing taxpayer dollars and hurting innocent people. And as of this recording, he posted this about 8 hours ago, so this happened today.
I'm Dr. Oz. Here at CMS, integrity isn't optional, and neither are the actions we just took to stop fraudsters from stealing taxpayer dollars and hurting innocent people. We are temporarily freezing the enrollment of new hospice and home health care providers nationwide so fraud can no longer get a foothold. Two things are going to happen. First, patients nearing life's end will continue to receive palliative care and support from legitimate Medicare hospice providers. Homebound patients will also continue to receive legitimate home health care services that they need to recover. Second, bad actors are going to meet their fate. Like the over 500 suspicious hospices that we suspended last month alone in Los Angeles. Taking them off the streets safeguards billions in taxpayer dollars and protects innocent patients, many of whom can't access their Medicare benefits after getting conned. It's simple. Fraud won't get through,
won't qualify.
and Medicare is here for you and will be for generations if we act now. If you see or suspect fraud, please call us at 1-800-MEDICARE.
Yeah, they covered that yesterday. We covered a lot of fraud stuff that happened yesterday. I think that video clip that I posted this morning was like 45, almost 50 minutes in length. So a lot of fraud information happened yesterday that they released with the new White House Fraud Task Force. Where was that profile? Yeah, here it is. White House Fraud Task Force. I believe that they launched it yesterday. and definitely going to be keeping an eye on that. Let me see. Yeah, there it is. White House Task Force and ending fraud against the American taxpayer. Man, it's already got 200,000 followers. I think yesterday it had like 40, 45, maybe 50,000 followers. So it's blown up. A lot of people are following it. And yeah, so they did cover that yesterday with victims of fraud, with Medicare fraud, that they would have their identity stolen and they wouldn't realize it for sometimes years until they end up with a medical ailment, and then they go to apply for whatever it is that they need medical treatment for, and they're outright denied because they had maximized their available benefits because their identity was fraudulently stolen. All right, so from Central Command, we're going to move on to the Iranian situation. There's not a lot. There's only a couple of posts with regard to Iran, so we're not going to get too far into it because I don't think there's a whole lot that happened over the last 24 hours. But anyway, we've got this from Admiral Cooper with Central Command. Looks like he was in front of a committee today. Commander Admiral Brad Cooper, Iran's capability has been significantly degraded. If I just use my own professional experience, in 100 transits through the Strait of Hormuz, you would typically see 20 to 40 fast boats. Lately, we've only seen 2 or 3.
Their capability have been significantly degraded. If I just use my own professional experience, in 100 transits through the Strait of Hormuz, you would typically see 20 to 40 fast boats, and lately we've seen 2 or 3. Their capability.
All right. I didn't see the point in full screening if it was only 14 seconds. But anyway, man, dude is decorated, man. Look at that. Like going like halfway down his jacket. All right, so U.S. Central Command, the testimony on the posture of the United States Central Command in just the last 30 months. And this isn't a typo. I thought this was a typo, and they meant to say last 30 days, but it does mean last 30 months. So in just the last 30 months prior to the commencement of Epic Fury, Iranian-supported terror groups have attacked U.S. troops and diplomats more than 350 times, the equivalent of an attack more than every third day, killing 4 U.S. service members and wounding nearly 200 more, from Admiral Brad Cooper, CENTCOM Commander. And from U.S. Space Command, we're committing nearly $18 billion to operationalize the Golden Dome for America to defend the homeland. We're providing the largest investment in space capabilities ever. This is from the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. The $1.5 trillion investment is a generational down payment on America's national defense. This investment guarantees the United States maintains overwhelming strength and unmatched deterrence against any adversary for generations to come.
Despite what you might hear in the media, America is not in decline. We remain the strongest military power on Earth, but that power requires renewal. And
better
with global
than China.
Threats that are constantly evolving, it's time to make a $1.5 trillion investment. A generational down payment. For far too
For the record,
long,
I'm kind of uncomfortable with that number.
America's
It's a
defense
ridiculously high
industrial
number.
base to fall apart. During President Trump's first term, our military was rebuilt into the greatest fighting force on the planet. The execution of Operations Midnight Hammer, Southern Spear, Absolute Resolve, and Epic Fury are testaments to this restoration of strength. America's $1.5 trillion investment guarantees
incredibly good
that
at what
the
they do.
United States military will maintain this advantage against any adversary, anywhere, at any time. Here's why. A historic $756 billion of the defense budget, more than half of it, will be allocated to investments in new capabilities. That means factories, technology, and jobs. It also means spending $100 billion to advance the next generation of American air power. We're advancing the largest shipbuilding request since 1962. Including $10 billion into our maritime industrial base. We're committing nearly $18 billion to operationalize Golden Dome for America to defend the homeland. We're
You're
providing
welcome,
the largest
Canada.
investment in drone
How much are they
warfare
gonna
and
spend
space
toward that?
capabilities ever. We're reshoring our critical mineral sector to reduce reliance on foreign nations. And we're increasing our investment in artificial intelligence by 800%. This is a generational down payment on our future. A down payment on deterrence. President Trump's budget is sending one unmistakable message to our allies, our enemies, and our defense industrial base. We are expanding our strength. We are restoring deterrence, and we are putting America first.
Okay. Well, I'm sure with $1.5 trillion, we would be truly an unstoppable force. Not that we're not already. We definitely are. And I think the operation to get Nicolas Maduro definitely proved that. I still can't believe that they actually pulled that off. That was absolutely crazy they were able to do that. And what was that, like within like 40, it was like a 40-minute operation. And I don't believe any service members were killed, at least not on our side. I believe they said that they killed like a couple or a few dozen. It was Cuban soldiers, I think, that Nicolas Maduro was using as his security force. But unreal. And dude had a $50 million reward on him, established by, I believe it was the State Department. It might have been the FBI or whoever, but the federal government, $50 million reward. We went and we got him. That was a wild night. Secretary Linda McMahon, she's with the Department of Education. The most important thing we can do for our children is to make sure they can read and do math, and we're failing them. Yeah, definitely failing them. The Trump administration is helping states invest directly into proven interventions to turn around student outcomes. And in case you didn't know, she's a strong advocate for completely dismantling the federal Department of Education. She wants to dissolve the entire thing, so she would do that in a heartbeat if she could.
We want to make sure that the funds that are going into these states through this budget program of our mega grant program, we are reserving 50% of the monies that are going to states. We're asking states to reserve 50% of that money, 25% devoted to literacy, 25% devoted to numeracy, so that we can get our children to read. The most important thing we can do for our children is to make sure they can read and do math. We have failed.
It's foundational.
When you have only 30% or even a little less of 8th graders and 4th graders that can read at proficient level, we are failing our students, and we need to change that.
Yeah, it's something like 85% of Gen Alpha, they can't read an analog clock. If you point to an analog clock on the wall with the two hands, they can't read it. They have no idea what it says because they weren't taught it. And also, a sizable percentage can't read cursive or write in cursive. And, I guess many people could probably take that or leave it because, like who's really writing cursive these days other than the elderly? It could depend on the workforce, though. If you deal with the public, especially with paperwork, a lot of people still write in cursive. Even though they're aging out, they're still here. And if you can't read and write in cursive, then that might affect you in some areas of the workforce. And from Senator Dick Durbin, Congress can do two things right now to hold big tech accountable. Repeal Section 230. Open the courtrooms for families. Put people first, not social media companies. And of course, I think he's the whip, isn't he? The Senator Dick Durbin, of course, the Democrat. Democratic whip and ranking member in the Senate Judiciary. So I decided to ask this before we go and watch the video. So what would a repeal of Section 230 look like? So repealing Section 230 would strip platforms, so social media platforms and so on, of their broad immunity from liability for third-party user content. Sites like X and Facebook or YouTube could then be sued as publishers for defamation, misinformation, or harmful posts, similar to traditional media. This would likely force heavier moderation and deplatforming or algorithmic changes to limit legal exposure, raising free speech concerns while giving users more legal recourse against platforms. Implementation details would depend on the exact bill language. So that's like a very broad, in a nutshell, view of what repealing Section 230 would look like. It would essentially hold social media companies and pretty much namely social media. I think that's what they're concerned with the most, with being accountable for things that are published on their websites. So there you go.
Two things we can do: repeal Section 230, number one. Number two, give every American family access to courts to enforce the protection of their children. You're going to see things happen dramatically if we do those two things.
All right. Well, I don't know what the second part's all about. I mean, I understand what he means by it, but I don't know what context he's speaking of. And it would have been nice if Senator Dick Durbin had included a little more than that. But that's all we got from Senator Dick Durbin. Of course, the entire committee hearing, it's going to be out there somewhere. I can't gather everything together, but I'm sure that's probably relatively easily accessible where you can find that. And from Secretary Scott Turner with Housing and Urban Development, HUD, under the leadership of President Trump, is upholding the law, stewarding taxpayer funds, and expanding the path to the American dream of home ownership. My full opening statement during my Senate testimony. So it's about 5 minutes in length, but that's okay because we get to listen to the soothing voice of Scott Turner.
Everyone, and thank you, Chair Hyde-Smith, Ranking Member Gillibrand, and Chairwoman Collins, and this distinguished committee of members. I really appreciate you and this opportunity to testify on the President Trump's 2027 budget and what it means for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. At HUD, we remain focused on a simple principle. The American dream of home ownership must be within reach. That requires affordability, stewardship, and a shared duty between HUD and Congress. Taxpayer dollars are finite, but our responsibility is not. The president's proposal reflects that approach. It reins in wasteful spending, stops the ballooning of federal welfare programs, and continues HUD's mission-minded focus on serving the American people. The budget proposes to end the Community Development Block Grant Program, also known as CDBG, which was created to revitalize urban communities but has lost focus and often supports activities like equity officers in Chicago and Equity Lens Framework in Denver, and requirements in Massachusetts tied to DEI initiatives. Ending CDBG allows us to focus funding on programs directly impacting housing affordability. The president's proposal also reinforces HUD's commitment to the statutory intent of the Fair Housing Act rather than on activities that are anything but fair. We will continue to enforce the law as written because fair housing is indeed about equal rights, but it's not about extra rights. On homelessness, the data is clear. By the end of the Biden administration, HUD spending on continuum of care surged by more than 50%, yet street homelessness rose by 20% since 2020. Despite record funding, communities reported record homelessness. Since serving as secretary, I've raised the concerns about the Housing First model, an approach which fails to address underlying causes of homelessness, such as substance abuse and mental illness. Housing First feeds a homeless industrial complex that simply warehouses the homeless. Compassion requires results, not just resources. And HUD will focus on addressing root causes and pathways to self-sufficiency instead of trapping Americans in government dependency. The president plan reinforces HUD's commitment to stewardship of taxpayer dollars and priorities that serve our nation's most vulnerable people. The budget also secures $30 million for the Melania Trump Foster Youth to Independence Initiative. There are roughly 20,000 young Americans who age out of foster care annually, and nearly 1 in 4 experience homelessness. I've already directly heard from foster youth. They are not asking for handouts, they're asking for tools to achieve independence. They're fighting to stand on their own 2 feet and help their peers break the cycle and build a brighter future for themselves. Earning a paycheck is indeed empowering. Getting a handout is not. That is why the president is proposing work requirements of at least 20 hours per week, along with 5-year time limits for able-bodied Americans in HUD rental assistance programs. This helps individuals graduate from government assistance and makes room for vulnerable Americans that are on wait lists. The budget also includes $160 million for Federal Housing Administration contracts to help Americans access affordable and sustainable home ownership opportunities. Across HUD, we're strengthening program integrity. In December, we published the FY25 agency financial report that uncovered over $5 billion in potential payment error under the Biden administration. This is unacceptable.
$5 billion.
Accountability is not optional. It's a fundamental public trust. We're also making HUD more efficient by relocating our Robert C. Weaver Federal Building to Alexandria, a move that reflects a broader commitment to modernization. The Weaver Building had deteriorated beyond cost-effective repair, with more than $500 million in delinquent and deferred maintenance and over $22 million in annual operating costs. By relocating, HUD is saving taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars while providing employees with a safe and collaborative workspace. The budget also secures $30 million for our Program Integrity Initiative, or our HUD Unified Grant System, Project HUGS, which will build on HUD's sub-recipient reporting pilot to support data analysis and identify improper payments so we can better combat waste, fraud, and abuse. Under this administration, HUD has indeed delivered. Since January 2025, we have supported home ownership for 1.2 million American households, with more than 70% being first-time buyers. That is what focused and disciplined policy can achieve. The president's plan builds on that progress. It brings discipline to federal spending and regulation, strengthens accountability, and reinforces HUD's mission. We'll focus on results, Madam Chair, not just rhetoric. This vision positions HUD to lead a renaissance of housing revitalization, one that increases supply, expands access, and delivers real opportunity for the American people. It's my honor to be here with you all this morning. Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Well, if they get the cost of housing down, it's all about the price. It's not about the percentages. Well, actually, to be fair, it is a lot about the regulations too, which he did say that they're working on cutting a lot of the regulations because tens of thousands of dollars in the price of a new house is due to government regulations. So if they roll a lot of that back, then new houses won't cost quite as much as they do right now. So, I mean, I don't know if that's going to fix everything in terms of being able to buy a house, because the average house, I think it's still sitting at about $400,000 for the average cost nationwide, which is like 85% of Americans just simply, they're completely cut out of that opportunity. But anyway, so did you have enough of Scott Turner's voice? No? All right, well, you're in luck because I got one more. Opportunity zones are revitalizing forgotten communities from coast to coast. I'm excited to see how public-private partnerships will continue to boost these communities now that opportunity zones are permanent under the president's Working Families Tax Cuts.
These zones, as you know, have been very transformative in our country. And the simple of it is that public-private partnerships really are what make opportunity zones successful. And so I'm looking forward to the continuation and the permanency of opportunity zones in our country as it pertains to operating businesses and creating more affordable homes. So public-private partnerships are crucial and key in opportunity zones.
Thank you for putting those pieces together because that is so critical.
Well, absolutely. Yep. Private, public partnerships, definitely essential. And everything going down to the cost of the building materials. I'm sure that's probably not gone down since COVID. I remember when everything skyrocketed, lumber went up 4 times. It's absolutely ridiculous. From NASA Universe. So you know what this means. We're getting toward the end of the episode. Our TESS telescope has released its most complete view of the starry sky yet. All those dots, so all these dots that you see in this image, obviously that's the Milky Way. So if you've been lucky enough to be so far out of the city in the blackness of night, during the darkest hours of the night, you look up at the sky, you can see the clouds in the Milky Way. It's absolutely stunning. So all those dots, they're confirmed and candidate planets. So I'm assuming probably the blue ones are going to be the confirmed ones and the orange ones are yet unconfirmed, but probably planets there. Since launching in April of 2018, TESS has been scanning wide swaths of the sky to build up this mosaic because we're trying to ideally find planets that are not only in the Goldilocks zone, which is in the zone where liquid water or water could be in liquid form on the surface of that planet, but also hopefully try to find planets that could be potentially habitable. Not that I think that we would really have any realistic shot at just simply relocating to another planet. I mean, if we find another planet that has a lush biodiversity of life on the planet and the atmosphere is the same, it has a moon, it's roughly the same distance from its sun, which is the same size as our sun. All of these factors, if you line everything up and we find that 1 in a million planet that's absolutely perfect and totally habitable, we can breathe the oxygen, or it's 20% oxygen or what have you, checking all the boxes. I think that the biggest hurdle that we would have to overcome is the potential, the bacteria that evolved there and the viruses, the pathogens, all of that stuff that would almost certainly kill any alien life. And that's what people don't really ever consider. If aliens were to land here and if they don't have a protective suit, or if they take off their mask or whatever, they take in one breath and they breathe in. It's something like a 20 or 30 different bacterial cells that are just hanging in the air. And if their immune system isn't set up for that, then it would certainly kill them very quickly. It's absolutely wild. So anyway, whatever, I don't want to ramble too much. But from NASA's TESS, which is Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite, has released its most complete view of the starry sky to date, filling in gaps from previous observations. Nearly 6,000 colored dots scattered across the image show the locations of either confirmed or candidate exoplanets, worlds beyond our solar system, identified by the mission as of September 2025 at the end of TESS's second extended mission. And most of the planets they're finding are gas giants. They're not habitable like the Earth would be or a rocky planet would be. And plus the whole avatar, an Earth-sized moon orbiting what would be a Jupiter-like planet, that's not real. It's not realistic in the scientific sense, because you have a planet like Jupiter, it gives off tons of radiation. So I mean, even if you had a habitable planet, well, even that really wouldn't be possible, because just the radiation alone would sterilize the planet just naturally. They wouldn't even have really a chance. But you got Europa, which is a moon that orbits Jupiter. What's the other one? Ganymede, I think, is the other one that has potential liquid water beneath the surface. You know, it's protected by a 20-mile thick ice crust from that radiation from Jupiter. So that's how they think that it could be habitable, maybe. Anyway, over the last 8 years, TESS has become a fire hose of exoplanet science, said Rebecca Hounsell, a TESS associate project scientist at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. It's helped us find planets of all different sizes, from tiny Mercury-like ones to those larger than Jupiter. Some of them are even in the habitable zone, where liquid water might be possible on the surface, an important factor in our search for life beyond Earth. The TESS mission scans a wide swath of the sky called a sector for about a month at a time using its 4 cameras. These long stares allow the spacecraft to track the brightness changes of tens of thousands of stars, looking for variations in their light, or like a little dip in their light's brightness that might come from a planet orbiting, essentially a planet transiting between its host star and the Earth's position looking at it. So if the star's brightness dips just ever so slightly, it might mean because there's a planet crossing in front of it. And that's how TESS is able to discover these thousands of planets. Researchers assembled an all-sky mosaic made of 96 sectors observed between April of 2018, when TESS began its work, and September of 2025. And those are the planets they found. A lot. And again, like I said, I believe that the orange ones are probably the candidates and the blue ones are the confirmed ones, because of course they're going to have a lot more candidates than confirmed ones. The view of the whole sky was constructed from 96 TESS sectors. By the end of September 2025, when the last image of this mosaic was captured, TESS had discovered 679 exoplanets, the blue dots, and 5,165 candidates, the orange dots. The glowing arc running through the center is the plane of the Milky Way. The large Magellanic Cloud can be seen along the bottom edge, just left of the center. Where would that be? Right here? I think, yeah, I believe that's this Magellanic Cloud. And where was it? Black areas within the oval indicate regions TESS has not yet imaged. So it's already imaged pretty much all of it, except for just a couple of like really thin lines and a big black square there. All right, so okay, so you can download the resolution images, nearly 700 planets, over 5,000 candidate planets. So anyway, we'll move on to the last thing that I have. Let's see what that might be. From myself, from yours truly. James Webb Space Telescope took a picture of a galaxy 33.8 billion light years away. It's the farthest galaxy that has ever been imaged, ever, at least from the Earth. NASA's Webb Telescope to Mom Z14 and back. Let a caregiver in your life know your appreciation for them reaches the farthest galaxy ever detected. Read more about MOM, or Mom Z14. So of course this came out on Mother's Day, but I hadn't come across it, so I figured I might as well just go over it right now. NASA Webb pushes the boundaries of observable universe closer to the Big Bang. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope shows galaxy Mom Z14 as it appeared in the distant past, only 280 million years after the universe began in the Big Bang. So so that's the image. Very fuzzy. They can't clean it up, because it probably doesn't look much more organized than it appears in that image. It's not a spiral galaxy because it's too early in the universe for spiral galaxies to have emerged. All the galaxies back then were just basically just big gas blobs, even though stars had been forming at that point, but they were still pretty disorganized because the universe was still really young then. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope has topped itself once again, delivering on its promise to push the boundaries of the observable universe closer to cosmic dawn with the confirmation of a bright galaxy that existed 280 million years after the Big Bang. By now, Webb has established that it will eventually surpass virtually every benchmark it sets in these early years, but the newly confirmed galaxy MOM Z14 holds intriguing clues to the universe's historical timeline and just how different a place the early universe was than astronomers expected. With Webb, we are able to see farther than humans have ever before, and it looks nothing like what we predicted, which is both challenging and exciting, said Rohan Naidu of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology Kavli Institute for Astrophysics and Space Research, lead author of a paper on galaxy MOM Z14 published in the Open Journal of Astrophysics. Due to the expansion of the universe that is driven by dark energy, discussion of physical distances in years ago becomes tricky when looking this far. Using Webb's NIRS spec near-infrared spectrograph instrument, astronomers confirmed that MOM Z14 has a cosmological redshift of 14.44, meaning that its light has been traveling through expanding space, being stretched and shifted to longer, redder wavelengths for about 13.5 of the universe's estimated 13.8 billion years of existence. So when an object appears red out in the cosmos, it's moving away from us. When it appears bluer, it means it's moving toward us, which, because the universe is expanding in all directions, just about everything appears redshifted. Not literally everything, but almost everything. We can estimate the distance of galaxies from images, but it's really important to follow up and confirm with more detailed spectroscopy so that we know exactly what we are seeing and when, said Pascal Osech of the University of Geneva, co-principal investigator of the survey. And the Cosmos Field MOM Z14 Galaxy NIRC, or NIRCam in image. I think it's NIRCam. And so this is the image that it took, the wide field image. Everything that you see in this image are galaxies, except for the ones that appear to be stars, the ones that are obviously stars, like that one that's up in the upper left corner. At least what I count 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, 6, 7, like roughly a half a dozen stars in the image, but everything else in the image, thousands of galaxies. Each one of those dots having hundreds of billions of stars within each one of these dots. So it just makes you wonder, yeah, there's probably life out there somewhere. But yeah, the MOM Z14 is right there. Really, really, really far away. What was it, 33? I think it was like 33.8. Is that what it was? 33.8 billion light years away. Very far indeed. And there's no possible way we'll ever be able to visit because it's at least at this point, presently, it's probably traveling away from us faster than the speed of light, but its light is still reaching us because just at the time, that the light reached us, it wasn't quite 33.8 billion light years away. But at its current position, it's estimated to be about 33.8 billion light years away. So it's essentially a ghost form of a galaxy that we'll never be able to travel to, never be able to see up close. It's essentially just gone forever because physics, light speed, it just isn't possible for us to ever reach it. So it's pretty wild, man. It's kind of mind-bending, really. All right, so that is going to do it for this episode. So if you enjoyed the video, please give the video a quick like and subscribe. And I'll be back tomorrow night as we explore the swamp Monday through Friday. I also post daily on X, which is where you can peek at the content for tomorrow's episode. And don't forget, the video clips from tonight will begin dropping on this channel tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. Thank you very much for watching, and God bless the troops, and God bless America.